Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2 Chronicles, the second chapter. And in this chapter, right, we deal with King Solomon making that request to Hiram, the king of Tyre, to gain resources, all right, that he could then use to build that temple of the Lord, as well as his palace. Okay, so this is the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 2 verse 1. And Solomon determined to build an house for the name of the Lord Yahweh, and an house for his kingdom. And Solomon took out 70,000 men to bear burdens, and 80,000 to hew in the mountain, and 3,600 to oversee them. So of the 70,000 men, which were 70,000 men, right? 60, and that 10 making it 70. They would bear the burdens. In other words, they would carry the load, right? So you can imagine them being a part of those that transport resources from one area to another where it's needed, right? And then you had another 80,000 to hew in the mountain, so to help with the cutting down of the trees and so on. And then you had the overseers that would, make sure everything is running smoothly, X, Y, and Z. And those were about 3,600. And Solomon sent to Huram, which is really Hiram, the king of Tyre, saying, As thou didst deal with David my father, and didst send him cedars to build him an house to dwell therein, even so deal with me. Behold, I build an house to the name of the Lord Yahweh my God, to dedicate it to him, and to burn before him sweet incense, and for the continual shewbread, and for the burnt offerings morning and evening, right? That's that morning and evening oblation, on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and on the solemn feasts of the Lord Yahweh our God. This is an ordinance forever to Israel. And the house which I build is great, for great is our God above all gods. But who is able to build him an house, seeing the heaven and heaven of heavens cannot contain him? So even the space, its goodness, the atmosphere, all that extra surface area over there can't contain the Lord. And how am I supposed to build a temple for him to dwell in? Who am I then, that I should build him an house, save only to burn sacrifice before him? So at best, what I'm building is going to be to offer sacrifices before the Lord, but not one that can actually contain the Lord within it, though the Lord did show his presence at times, right? You get what Solomon is saying here in a nutshell. Verse 7, Send me now therefore a man cunning to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in iron, and in purple, and crimson, and blue, and that can skill to grave with the cunning men that are with me in Judah and in Jerusalem, whom David my father did provide. So now King Solomon is requesting, right? Send me a skillful craftsman, right? That's what it goes into cunning here, meaning like he's skilled in the arts of dealing with gold and silver, right? Overlaying things, and in brass and iron, and in purple and crimson and blue. And this is more dealing with like the fabrics, or possibly even dyes, right? And can skill to grave with the cunning men that are with me in Judah. So when we go back, where I have the reference here in the book of 1 Chronicles, the 22nd chapter, King David in preparation, right? Because he knew he wasn't going to be the one to build the temple of the Lord. So in preparation, he ended up setting things in motion for King Solomon. So when King Solomon was to come of age and into power, he would be the one to then utilize those resources and go ahead and get the work done. Right? And so King Solomon here is asking for somebody skilled enough to be able to work with the skilled men that David had already set up, for the building of the temple. So real quick, let's jump to 1 Chronicles chapter 22. I'll read a couple verses here and jump down. This is 1 Chronicles chapter 22, verse 1. Then David said, "This is the house of the Lord Yahweh, and this is the altar of the burnt offering for Israel." And David commanded to gather together the strangers that were in the land of Israel. And he set masons to hew wrought stones to build the house of God. And David prepared iron in abundance for the nails of the doors of the gates, and for the joinings, and brass in abundance without weight, and cedar trees in abundance for the Zidonians, and they of Tyre brought much cedar wood to David. And David said, "Solomon my son is young and tender, and the house that is to be builded for the Lord Yahweh must be exceeding magnifical, of fame and of glory throughout all centuries. I will therefore now make preparation for it." So David prepared abundantly before his death. So he set everything in motion for Solomon. Then he called for Solomon his son, and charged him to build an house for the Lord Yahweh, God of Israel. And now jumping down to verse 14. This is once again David speaking to Solomon. "Now behold, in my trouble I have prepared for the house of the Lord Yahweh 100,000 talents of gold, and 1,000 talents of silver, and of brass and iron without weight. For it is in abundance. Timber also and stone have I prepared, that thou mayest add thereto." So I've already set some stuff aside, so when it's time, you just add whatever else you need and go ahead and get this job done. "Moreover, there were workmen with thee in abundance, or there are workmen with thee in abundance, hewers and workers of stone and timber, and all manner of cunning men for every manner of work. Of the gold, the silver, and the brass, and the iron, there is no number." It's that much. All right. So basically, it's more than enough. You're gonna be good there. "Arise therefore and be doing, and the Lord Yahweh be with thee." Okay, so there's what King Solomon was referring back to there about what was set up by David. Verse 8, "Send me also cedar trees." So this is continuing with King Solomon's request. "Send me also cedar trees, fir trees, and algum trees out of Lebanon. For I know thy servants can skill to cut timber in Lebanon. And behold, my servants shall be with thy servants." Because the Phoenicians, right, which that's what they were known as well. They were skilled with like building, crafts, cutting, and all of that. Okay, so as King Solomon's requesting here, I need resources, and I know you have people that can cut down the trees and all that, and I'm going to send some of my servants as well to come in and help with that. "Even to prepare me timber in abundance, for the house which I am about to build shall be wonderful great. And behold, I will give to thy servants, the hewers that cut timber, 20,000 measures of beaten wheat, and 20,000 measures of barley." Now the beaten wheat is, let me see if I can find something here on that. Beaten. Because when you beat the wheat, you get the grain out of it. Yeah, let me see. Can I have? Ready. This is more in a more modern sense. All right, let's see if I can get the word for beaten here. Okay, here we go. What do we have? Makah. Right. Beat, wound, slaughter. Okay, so there's the word, but you get the sense here that let me see, wheat. There we go. So you see these two right here? You have the wheat, and within these you have the grain, right? So let me see, wheat and grain. There you go. You got the grain that's within this covering, right, of the wheat. And so the way you got the grain out of it that's where you get the concept of the threshing floor, right? And you would actually beat the grains, hit them while they're on the floor with something, a stick, whatever, special kind of material to then cause these grains to come out of the shells. And then this is what you would use, and you could grind this using a millstone or whatever, and then you can bake with it and do whatever you want to try and do with it. It's wheat, right? And we do a lot of things with wheat now, right? So that's what King Solomon's referring to here, right? Beaten wheat, because this is more convenient, than this. All right. The work is already done, and there's a lot more. It's just like the direct resource here. So it's a good price, so to speak. So he says he'll give the hewers, right, those that cut timber, 20,000 measures of beaten wheat, and 20,000 measures of barley, and 20,000 baths of wine, and 20,000 baths of oil. And that bath is like some likely some liquid measurement, right? Because we're dealing with wine and oil and so on. Then Hiram, the king of Tyre, answered in writing, which he sent to Solomon. Behold, the Lord Yahweh hath loved his people, he hath made thee king over them. Or because the Lord Yahweh hath loved his people, he had made thee king over them. Hiram said, moreover, blessed be the Lord Yahweh God of Israel, that hath made heaven and earth, who hath given to David the king a wise son, endued with prudence and understanding, that might build an house for the Lord Yahweh, and an house for his kingdom. And now I have sent a cunning man, endued with understanding, of Huram my fathers. So the name Huram here is Hiram. That's why I'm reading it as Hiram. Now, when you deal with this individual, Hiram, right? Hiram of my fathers, this is a different one, right? There are different Hirams. Like Pharaoh, you could say, right? It's one comparison I could think of. And here in the KJV is translated as Hiram my fathers, but in the direct Hebrew, right? It's la, which that's like the pertaining to, right? Of or to. And this is Chawaram, which is Hiram, Abaya, right? My fathers. Or in this case, my father, right? So Chawaram Abaya would be the name there. And so most translations go with the route of, like you would see, Huram Abi or Huram Abi, right? Same thing there, which is like a name, right? And it's prefixed here, suffixed with Abi, which is really supposed to be Abaya, right? Which is my father. And then you have Huram right there, or Hiram. And this is in more modern terms known as Hiram Abif, right? But it's really referring to the Abif comes from Abi, which is really Abaya, right? And that's why when you read it of here in 2 Chronicles 2:13, it says Huram, my fathers, but in the Hebrew that's what it reads as. So I pulled up a bit of information here, and it talks about how in the scriptures there are three separate instances of people named Hiram, right? And so you had the Hiram of during King David's time, and I believe he is the king here that Solomon is communicating with. And then upon Solomon's request, he replies and tells Solomon, I'm going to send you a skilled man, right? His name is Hiram, in the modern English, Abif, right? Or Hiram Abaya. So clearly he wasn't talking about himself. He's referring to somebody else. And he goes further and says, basically, this individual, right, was the son of a woman of the daughters of Dan. And his father was a man of Tyre, skillful to work in gold and in silver, in brass, in iron, in stone, and in timber, in purple and blue, and in fine linen. Now, this individual here, right, there's not much more information about, the nature of his actual father, right? Was his father a native to Tyre, in that case being a heathen? Or was his father, maybe an Israelite that was dwelling in the land of Tyre, right? because we know that when you read in I think it's in the book of Judges, it refers to how Dan ended up moving, right? He had a bulk of Dan because Dan's land was over here, and majority of them moved up north. As you can see, this arrow here points, up north, which is right across from Tyre here. Okay, but nonetheless, considering that there's nothing else pointing towards it, we'll just go with what is written here, which it calls his father a man of Tyre, and Hiram the king here is making this distinction, right, to say like, okay, this Hiram Abiff, right, is the son of an Israelite woman and a man of Tyre here. So we'll say if his father was a man of Tyre, we'll say that he was native. That would make this Hiram a heathen, but he was just one that was really skilled in his work. Okay, and also it would make sense because assuming that he was a Israelite, he probably would have already been appointed by David during David's gathering of the cunning men to do the work, right? Anyway, it's not of the utmost importance. So the point is, we had Hiram, the king of Tyre, sent this skilled man, right, who was also known as Hiram, to help with the work of the building here. So it says here, skillful, right? We read all of that. And in crimson, also to grave any manner of graving, and to find out every device which shall be put to him. Meaning, this guy is so skilled, like any design you give him, he can work with it. Any kind of work you give him, I do it this way, he's good with it. There are some individuals who are more, they're more like specialized in one side of things, and so they're like, oh, I only have experience working with this kind of engravings or doing this. As where this Hiram here was different. He had the ability to do all these things. It says here, with thy cunning men and with the cunning men of my lord David, thy father, right? Which I believe we read also in 1 Chronicles 22, right? Verse 15. It says, moreover, there are workmen with thee in abundance, hewers and workers of stone and timber, and all manner of cunning men for every manner of work. David had already made this preparation, right? Verse 15. Now therefore, the wheat and the barley, the oil and the wine, which my Lord hath spoken of, let him send unto his servants. And we will cut wood out of Lebanon as much as thou shalt need. And we will bring it to thee in floats by sea to Joppa, and thou shalt carry it up to Jerusalem. And once again, if we look up here, Joppa, right here, this is the port, right? And this is where Tyre is. So you can imagine this distance is probably more convenient to put it on the water and have it be brought down here. And then it can be, carried up to Jerusalem because, which is, I think, somewhere around here, down here, or actually right there. There we go. So remember, right, when you're dealing with like all these resources, wood, timber, all these, stuff, carrying it by land is actually going to be much more tasking because you have to lift it, right? You have to lift it and carry it. You have to either build some contraption that would lift it for you, or either way, it's going to involve manpower, trying to travel this whole part. Now, keep in mind, traveling over this, even just on foot or by a mule or a horse, still takes time. Now you're carrying some heavy ass, loads, and a lot of them too. But if you were to take them by water, by floats, you are able to take advantage of the water, the ocean, and let that do the heavy lifting. That is doing the carrying for you. And also, based on them, remember, they were great navigators as well. So they were a seafaring people. So they could definitely get you those resources real quick, via the water here. Direct line. Than having to go through these cities, gates, roads, hills, and all of that. Nah. Verse 17. Then Solomon numbered all the strangers that were in the land of Israel. And let's look into that word strangers here. I believe in the book of Kings, we read that these were not Israelites, but rather the, I picked the right word, strangers. Oh, here it just says Ayash. which is man. And you have servant and so on and so forth. But I believe in the book of Kings, which we can probably cross-reference that and see. Yeah. Yep. 1 Kings 9 and 20. And those that were not Israelites that were in the land were the strangers here that Solomon gathered to do the actual laborers' work, while the overseers were Israelites. I believe we covered that. Yeah, verse 19, 1 Kings 9 and 19. And all the cities of store that Solomon had, and the cities for his chariots, and the cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. And all the people that were of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able to utterly destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bond service on to this day. So these would be those in the levy that would be doing the heavy lifting there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I believe it was also might have also been covered in some other parts, but there you go. You got some information there. So back in, let me see if there's maybe another reference here. No, there's not. All right. So back in 2 Chronicles 2 and 17. And Solomon numbered all the strangers that were in the land of Israel after the numbering wherewith David his father had numbered them. And there were found 150,000 and 3,600, right? And so we know that these weren't, the number of Israelites in the land was much more than this, right? And when we go back to 1 Chronicles, as we just read in the 22nd chapter, King David had already done this, right, in preparation for Solomon coming up to build that temple. Verse 18, and he set 70,000 men, 70,000 of them, right? Once again, that's 70,000, to be bearers of burdens, and 80,000 to be hewers in the mountains, and 3,600 overseers to set the people a work. And that brings us to the end of the book of 2 Chronicles, the 2nd chapter. And as we're starting to see here, as I mentioned when we were going through the book of Kings, is that though the overarching story, right, the timeline of what's going on in the book of Chronicles and Kings are parallel, right? You get more context here and there as to certain things that weren't mentioned in the book of Kings, but those details are in the book of Chronicles, and you can get that there as well. So, Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.